Hey, this is Tony Jones, and that's Andy Root.
Hey,
That is Andy Root. He's the professor of youth and family at Luther Seminary in St. Paul, Minnesota, and a longtime friend of mine. And most importantly, for this topic, for this little video cast, is one of the two major presenters at the uh, the event we're calling First Third, which takes place March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in St. Paul. And Andy, I mean, I shouldn't even actually really call you a presenter because that would make it sound like it's a more traditional kind of youth ministry or academic conference, and it's really not, right?
yeah, that's right. I mean, that's the way we try to plan this thing is so that it would be, I guess the best way to say it is an opportunity for people that really want to think theologically and think deeply about youth ministry to get together and to talk. So, Ken Dean will be on campus here at Luther with us, and we're just going to try to construct some times for us all, the 120 participants, and Ken and myself to talk and to really get into some ideas and think theologically about youth ministry.
You and I, between the two of us, we've been to a lot of youth ministry conferences and events and conventions and things like that. And
Right.
I guess I can't think of another one that's like this, where it's really based exclusively on conversation, but it's conversation about the theology of youth ministry. It's not really a convocation about fun and games or something like that, although I'm sure we'll get into actual programming ideas, but it will be coming from kind of the soil of theological reflection. So I find that to be unique in the youth ministry landscape, and I think it's a really exciting kind of opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's unique too. I mean, I think one way you could look at it is that, the Princeton Youth Ministry Forums have really driven a little bit of a conversation to go deeper theologically as we think about youth ministry. But the way those are set up, and I think those are great, but the way they're set up, they don't necessarily allow for a lot of conversation, especially at the level of the whole participants. I mean, they have small groups and things like that. But the people that are sitting in Miller Chapel or sitting there listening don't necessarily, unless they raise their hand in a question and answer, get an opportunity to really engage the conversation and direct the conversation in a certain way. And we're going to try to do that in this first third event, where if you come and maybe even if you don't come, but if you send in a question through Twitter or something, that you have an opportunity to direct the very conversation that we're having.
One of the things that I'm sure there are two topics that we'll talk about over the course of the 3 days together. We're going to watch a movie and do some theological reflection on the movie American Teen. We're going to have some resource sharing times, and I know that when we sit and really dig deep into theology, we'll probably get into two areas specifically. One is the area you've written the most on, and that's relationality, and the other is the area that Kenda has written most about, and that's passion. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you have any sense of kind of why a youth worker might want to come and engage in a dialogue about those two particular theological ideas?
Yeah, I think there's actually something that really holds both of our works together that I imagine we're going to get into. And for Kenda, passion is really embedded in the passion of Jesus Christ primarily, and this perspective of the cross. And my own work on relationships in youth ministry has had I've focused a lot on the cross as well, as the cross is kind of being paradigmatic or being a way of thinking about how we're actually in relationship with young people through incarnation, the cross, and resurrection. So I think that if you come, you're going to find yourself in a really rich conversation, dare we say, about Christology and how Jesus Christ is really active and moving, and not just as kind of examples and information that we want to get kids to assimilate, that we want to get them to know this doctrine or something. But both Ken and I are really going to talk about how this understanding of who Jesus Christ is and how Jesus Christ moves changes the way that we do ministry and is actually empowering for how we think about the practice of ministry with young people themselves. So we're not really interested in just kind of hashing through doctrine, but actually seeing how doctrine becomes living, and how theological perspectives actually mobilize us for ministry.
Mm. Well, I think it's going to be fascinating. I think it's going to be unlike any other youth ministry event out there, and it's limited to 120 people, and we're getting close to
We are
capping
getting
that
very
off.
close to that, yeah.
So,
Yep.
I hope that there are a few more youth workers out there who are theologically interested, and really want to have a deep theological grounding to their practice of youth ministry, and they might think about joining us. It's going to be March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd at Luther Seminary in St. Paul, Minnesota, and you can find out more at FirstThird.org. All right, thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Tony.